I don't know if you know it or not, but the adult heartbeats averages 100,000 times a day. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day, circulating some 1,900 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of arteries, blood vessels, and capillaries. Whew. That's amazing. I mean, if you just look at how magnificent that is and how powerful that the heart is. But the fact that this came in all around the time of what we call enlightenment, I guess would be the period that we would call that. That's when Da Vinci showed up and some of the great artists and whatever, that moved us toward this idea of the heart being the central control of the body. At that moment, the heart was more suppressed and into submission. Now, that's interesting when you think about it, because look at the story of men and women. The heart is the feminine. The brain is the masculine. And the brain has to do with knowledge. Knowledge is very male. But the feeling, the intuition, the guidance is the heart. The heart also is translated soul many times in the New Testament. It's called life. It's translated many different words, but it has to do with the soul, and that word is suke. Interesting word, suke. You say, well, that's Greek to me. Well, it is Greek. But what's interesting is that we were influenced into the English language for this word suke to be such word as psychology, phonics, anything to do with these words that have a feminine word ending. So I'm going to give you a little English class here. But in English, we don't have that. But if you go into the more romantic languages, they have a masculine, a feminine, and a neutral word ending. And the Greek for the soul, suke, is a feminine word ending. Now, if you get into the word, even the word spirit, you get into pneuma, you may have heard, which is a masculine. And then you have soma, which is body. And the body has a neutral one. So the body kind of follows whoever is guiding in the ship. That's the direction you're going. If knowledge that you downloaded into the brain is working, that's the direction that you're going. But if you cut off her and put her into submission, and isn't that what the Bible teaches? Put women into submission to man. Man is the head of the woman. All of these things metaphysically speak of what's going on in us, not just what's going on. So people says, well, we need to correct it out there. We need to give women equal this and equal that. Well, until you give equality in here, I don't think it's ever going to work out there. We're going to always keep, even though I shouldn't get into this. Even though we pass laws and we get who we think's the right person into office and the person that's going to do this. Look how long we've done with racism. When many years ago, the vote went toward integration and equality. It's still, after 50-some, 60 years, we're still dealing with this issue today. Because everything, even though you do some things out here, it always comes back to its core vibration. Okay? So until you change that, I don't care what you do out here. Things are always going to go back toward that. So racism has to be healed in you, not out there first. That's a fact. You got to keep looking at what is the cause of the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, and all of the things that are emerging on the body politic, the pathology of the toxicity that has been building and building and building for a lot of ages of time is now emerging for the purpose not to be judged, but to be healed. You're not going to heal anything by keep judging it. Right or wrong, good or bad. Now I'm talking to me too, because you got to get to that place. You have to find a higher state of your consciousness where this flows and works, instead of trying to do it from a lower state of consciousness that created the problem in the first place. It's not the battle between the heart and the brain. It is the fact that they need to work together as a couple. They hold great things for each other. But when one is cut off from the other, we have an imbalance that's going on. The human species lost sight of the heart as it developed the brain. So there was a place in evolution in which the brain became developed enough that it became powerful enough that it overtook the heart. And we're living at as we know, a many different shift that are going on at most every level. I'm excited about new research that has been done beginning in 1993, and it's a research that has been branded and called energy cardiology, where physics and cardiology have married and come together intellectually and emotionally coming together. The result was an explosion of predictions that could forever change how we view not only the human heart, but hearts in general. The coded pulsations emanating through the cosmos that give frequency and form to the universe. So that's all I'm trying to say at this point, is that you are co-creating the world. And when you understand that, you become less victimized by the world. You become a person who is an actor. You're the person that's not sitting on the sideline watching the world go by and feeling helpless and there's nothing I can do about it. But you become empowered. You become involved. You begin to find your power in the purpose of a new earth and a new heaven that is coming forth. Spirit gets into the heart by bypassing often the mechanisms of the brain. Unfortunately, the brain, as brilliant as it is and fantastic as it is still not being fully used. Around 10%. And that 10%, actually, if you study it, we'll see that it came through the autopsy of Einstein. So if Einstein was using 10%, as brilliant as he is, what's the average person out here walking the street using today? It's pretty low. So there's so much of self, of true self, authentic self, that is yet to be awakened in us. We use out of 3 billion letters of one double helix in 50 trillion cells, we use only 3 to 5% of that genetic material to have the physical world that we have today. 90 to 97% is laying there ready to be awakened. That is where I found God in me. I searched for God in me for a lot of years. Everybody said it was in me. I thought, well, where is that? Where does God live in me? Where's Jesus? They told me, accept Jesus into my heart. And I thought, what does that mean? Jesus as a body. How does this body live in my heart? I couldn't figure it out as a kid that was absolutely a thinker about all these things. I didn't take it at face value. I wanted to know, what does that mean to accept Jesus into my heart today? How do I do that? And of course, they didn't give me the answers to those kind of things because it was all by faith. When religion throws out faith, what they mean is blind belief. They're not talking about real faith. They're not talking about one of the 12 powers of Fillmore's when he uses faith, Peter, as one of the disciplines within it. That's not the faith we're talking about. We're talking, you believe it because we said it. We believe because this is the way we interpret the Bible. You believe because this denomination or this religion believes it that way. They did not allow us to be self-thinkers for ourselves and to find out these things. Einstein said, is the universe friendly or an unfriendly place? Well, again, it comes back to ourselves. Are we in a relationship that's friendly to the world or unfriendly to the world? This is not an easy thing, this growing up thing. I'm telling you, it sounds good. Everybody thinks they want to grow up. You know, I think about my years, adolescence. I just couldn't wait to get out of the house and not have that curfew and not be ruled by the law of the house whatsoever. And I did. I left very early to do that. And my folks were smart enough just to let me go and, okay, go do it. And next thing I knew, I realized I had no more clean clothes. No clean underwear whatsoever. I had eaten the last can of Spam. Venus sausages, remember those things? Peanut butter. That's all I could cook. Just to open the can. You know? So I think, well, I'll go see my parents. And I'll take my laundry along. You know, maybe Mom. I'll say I want to do it, but I know she will. And I'll probably do that around dinner time. And you know, it's kind of getting late, so I think I'll just stay in my room. And the reason I did, because to make that move brought on responsibility. I was responsible for things I had not thought through in my life. And I think we have to understand that as we grow up in God, grow up in love and put away our childish things and become a new co-creative spiritual adult, this means new responsibilities are upon us. That we have to realize that we're a part of this process of changing the world and transforming the world. So if we do that from the brain, we're all going to have a different idea what that world all look like. And the world that is created or made by the brain is not a friendly world for the heart. Because the brain seats on the center of power of itself a separate idea in the brain that we call ego. I am not you, you are not me. And the only way that I can continue to know me is to get people to agree with me. So I keep finding people who believe like me, who looks like me, who thinks like me, and we begin to brood ourselves into these little groups where we support each other's illusions. And the minute in that situation that you do become empowered as a self-thinker, you will outgrow it. And you have. And this is what sits before me. You would not be here sitting and listening to this if you had not outgrown some of those early 3 chakra data banks that you have made of your life that is below the waist. And as you've moved up into the vicinity of the heart has spoken to you of a different story. The story which love is the center, whereas the brain, it's fear that is the center. The brain builds itself upon fear, while the heart has built its intelligence on love. So the brain looks at the heart and says, I don't need you. I can do what you're doing. So I will build a concept of love. I will look at what really love really is, and then I will build a construct of love mentally. And we'll talk about love, and we'll say we believe in love, but we won't love. Because the heart can do what the brain thinks about. Are you with me? The heart can do what only the brain can think about. The brain is nothing but perceptions of mental constructs about things that it is not. So we can sit and learn, and God knows I've spent a lot of time learning some Greek, learning Aramaic, learning this, and I'm not putting that down. I'm glad I did it. But I can never get to what it is I'm trying to experience by keep learning about it. You understand? Yeah. I have to at some point enter into the place of the heart. Now, this is what's beautiful. When you enter into the place of the heart, there is no thought from the brain. The brain ceases and is still. So the message is to the brain, be still. And all you need to do is just know. Just know. You don't have to analyze. You don't have to figure it out. I was reading a wonderful story the other day about in Hawaii that someone was visiting a family, and they were all sitting around the dinner table and getting ready to partake of the meal. And somebody said, "Let us pray." And this person was all ready for the prayer, and they went into total silence. And later he asked, he says, "Because we allow the heart to pray. We stop the prayers of the mental, and we allow the heart to pray." And he says, "Well, when you did that, I felt such a change. Something in the atmosphere changed around us as the heart now had an opportunity to not fight the mental chemical thoughts of the brain, and there was sacred space made for the heart to present itself beyond language, beyond words." And I thought that's a cool idea, that maybe we ought to look at this collective heart of prayer. Maybe some of our prayers should not be verbal. Maybe we should sit and learn to be comfortable in the silence of the brain, which is not an easy place to go. The brain is constantly thinking about things, because as long as it keeps you thinking about love, it can keep you from experiencing what love really is. So there has to be a balance between this idea of what the heart can give the brain, not just what the brain can give to the heart. The heart knows success cannot be pursued, but must be ensued as a result of a gentler, caring, loving orientation to the world. There are many environmental factors beyond anyone's control. Some life obstacles are put there because they cannot be overcome, and because they cannot teach us to stop trying. And when we stop trying and allow ourselves to start being, we will see who we are extended. You are love. Again, I say to people, I thought God had love. No, God is love. And it's not the love you have, it's the love you are that's going to be extended to the world. Yes. It's the love you are. And that's why the Bible says that all of mankind and creation is in travail and tiptoe and expectation, waiting for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. What that means is the world is waiting for the real thing to show up. The real thing. Not another philosophy, not another religion, not another construct, not another belief system. That's the last thing we need in this world and in America. We got too many of them now. What we need is love. Yes. Not more about it, not more talking about it, not just singing about it alone, but actually making a way in which love itself can be brought forth in this way. In Matthew 24 and 43 it says, "But be sure of this, if the owner of the house had known when during the night the thief would be coming, he would have stayed awake and not allowed the house to be broken into." And what this is saying is, if the ego mind knows where you're going, it can take it and rewrite it with its own agenda. And its own agenda is always based on separation. I'm not you, you're not me. And the only way it can prove that, even though that's not a reality, because I am you and you are me at the level of truth, of spirit. But the only way it can prove that is to project itself as a body identification. That's the only thing that we differ from in this room. We differ because we have no two bodies here exactly alike. Everybody has been uniquely made, physically different from everybody else. This proves the agenda, I'm not you and you're not me. And that's why it's important that through the heart we move through this illusion that I'm not you and you're not me into a place in which we are truly one. This cannot be something we just say in New Thought. It can't just become the popular thing. The trendy thing is to say we're one. That's easy. And that can be a mental construct. Where's the oneness? That's what this community wants to be about. We want people to walk in here and experience our oneness with each other. Right? More than just hear about it. But this is the manifestation. This is the coming of the Christ the world is basically looking for in that way. Beware of language we use. Heart language is more we, us, ours. Where the brain language is more about I, me, or you. Think about it. What's your language? Listen to each other even. Is it about who I am in this community, or is it about more who are we in this community? Is it more about us, or is it about me? Watch the language, and you can kind of see where it comes from. The brain starts thinking, the brain thinks it's smart and clever enough to get people to change and move into the direction it desires. When they don't, the brain gets angry, impatient, and even urges the body to aggressive acts. You know, even love can be pushed to the brink. And I do see Christ as a manifestation of that love that made it into the earth. But even that love was pushed one time when it began to turn the tables over in the temple. Because in his day, big corporation was in control. It's called the Sanhedrin court, but it was the corporation of his day of religion and politics coming together, much like what would they like to do now, as far as I'm concerned. They would love to bring all this back together in which there is no defining line between the spiritual and religious and the more political aspects. This is the worst thing that could happen to us. There's a reason that they put in there a separation between church and state. Right? And we're blurring those lines. In Job 36 and 27 and 8, for he draws up the drops of water which distill as rain from his vapor, when the skies pour down and drop abundantly upon the multitudes of man. I like this scripture because it tells me that every time we come together in these services like this and we really offer up the worship of love, like all that hugging and all that loving that's going on out there, all of that is raising and sending up a vibration. How many of you mean it when you hug? You're not just doing it just to do it because it's hug time. You're doing it because you really want to express the love that you are one to another and share that love with that person that you are hugging. In that moment, you're one with them in love. Right? I hope you understand that. And when that is truly an experience of love itself, that experience of love then is moved into the collective unconsciousness that surrounds this planet. Do you realize that? We have different spheres around this planet. We have ionosphere. We have all kinds of spheres around this planet. And one of them is an acoustic sphere, they call it. And that is where intention and sound is all banked. What I'm saying to you, when enough of that love reaches up there, it's much like right now the sun is always pulling moisture up from the oceans and the lakes and everything else, and you don't see it. In the beginning, you don't see what's going on. It doesn't show. But when enough of the drops of that moisture is raised into the sky and begins to come together, it begins to form a haze. And when it becomes even more dense, it becomes a cloud. And then the cloud says, I can't hold it anymore. I'm going to have to bring it back to the earth. So we're creating a love cloud. And if we keep investing in it, maybe you don't see a lot today if you look at the way things are, but don't be discouraged. Because if we continue to invest and allow love to come out of our hearts, we will at some point begin to see a haze, a glory cloud, let's call it. And that cloud says, I can't hold all this love anymore. I'm going to pour it down, and it's going to rain on the just and the unjust alike. Yes, would the sun shine on Hitler? Of course it would have. Do you think the sun would have said, Hitler? I am not shining today on Hitler. Trust me, the same sun shone on Hitler that was on the Jews, and the same sun that people that we see as enemies is the same sun and the same rain that falls upon us all. But we are the investors of that. So let us move toward being heart-centered, as we say, and realizing that being heart-centered is that way of a worship. It's a different kind of worship. It's not the worship I was taught of telling God how great God is. I don't have to tell God how great God is. God has no ego to receive that kind of thing. God doesn't have to be pumped up every day and told how wonderful he is. We do, but God doesn't. And really, we're trying to raise ourselves up by doing that. But we think that worshiping God is a more ego version of telling God how great he is. And that's, of course, in miracles. It says, Jesus says, I do not need your praises, for I have no ego to receive your praises. But you need to praise because that centers you in love, and that is what you are. Can we say that again? That's a good one. That's a really good one. What did I say? Yes. You need not to praise me, for I have no ego to receive your praise. But you need to praise because that centers you in love, for that is who you are. See, when you're giving honor and praise to something, you have to be centered in loving it, connecting to it. Yes. And at that moment, you are in the place of truly who you are as a loved being. That radiation and that vibration then is taken up by the Son of Righteousness. I love that. Do you know the S-U-N sometimes is a symbol for the S-O-N? Yes. And here's another great scripture I love. For the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. Isn't that a beautiful? The Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. And we were talking over there today about how that I saw the sun and the rays of the sun and all of that. And that's exactly why I think that is so powerfully used in there. So today, not a deep message, but it's just one of reminding ourselves that the more that we work with connecting to our heart and the intelligence of our heart, the more we can become an instrument for love, to be invested into the collective unconsciousness, to the point that that love will reign upon all people. Yes, even our president, who needs to be rained on with love. And I don't care what, that's not a judgment of right or wrong, it's just who doesn't need it, but especially those who are in the position to influence the course of the world need to experience this baptism of love. The Bible is clear to pray for your leaders. Now, I know there's a lot of talk and judging going on about how much of that is a prayer. And remember this, if you see something that's attacking you, it's a call for love.
Yes.
Course of Miracles. All attack is a call for love.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So where you think you're being done wrong and attacked is mostly where your prayers ought to be. It's easy to pray for somebody you agree with, somebody you like. That's an easy prayer. But to let really God make intercession through you, will not ask whether you like or dislike or believe or don't believe or what your party affiliation is. Those things are not even there. It goes through all of that. And it goes to the heart that somebody I disagree with that's in terrible pain is calling out for love. The brain won't get that. The brain won't even do it. The brain behind the sun sets today. You'll probably say 25 bad things about something you don't like or someone you don't care for or agree with.
Nah, not us.
But if you will live in the heart, if you will live in the heart, you will find yourself only as a vessel and an instrument for love to flow through you as you into the world today. So like the song says, all the world needs love. Love, sweet love. That's what it is today. So let us be the collective HeartLight Center. We're not just a church. We're not even just a community of people, but we are a living manifestation of the thriving, pumping, vibrant heart of God made manifest in Charlotte, North Carolina, to the world. And let our hearts shine today. Join me in prayer. Prayer of affirmation. First, my brain. My brain says, I submit to you, heart. You are equal to me. The male and the female come together in me. Intellect, knowledge, and wisdom come together in me today. In us. In we. This people. Our power is not in how many bodies show up, for we know that it's not in the quantity, but in the quality, in the depth of those who are here. We know that it only takes 2 or 3 of us together, being one, to create a human portal, an entrance for love to enter into the world. If 2 or 3 can do that, what can 40 or 50 do? I know that looks like nothing compared to churches that have thousands today here in the city because they're counting bodies. They're counting dollars. Today we honor the depth of the people that has been drawn into this community today. Holy Spirit, circumcise our hearts and put in a new heart of spirit and of flesh. And let the heart of God that has been given to us join with the brain, and together may they make beautiful babies together. She takes the thought of him, the seed, but only she can form it and produce it and birth it. Without her, it'll never be birthed into the world. And that's why the ego tried to shut her out, because she has the ability to do what he cannot do alone. And that's bring forth the issues of life. Come from the heart. So let this not be just words to us, but let us be the experience of this community. Practice the presence of the heart. You can do your audible prayers, but make sure there is space for the silence of the brain. And let the heart, let her speak. Let her take her place in you. And now we just listen to the heart for a few seconds of silencing our brain as much as we possibly can. See what feeling comes up now into your head. Not a thought, but a feeling. Can you feel love, not think love? Do you feel the love for yourself? You say, I can't love myself because the brain, but the heart holds the eye of God. It is the heart of hearts. See yourself through the eyes of your Creator. and feel that love that the Creator has for you. Heart to heart, spirit to spirit, all are part of the whole. Oh, heart to heart, spirit to spirit, walking in love with these we know. One more time. Heart to heart, spirit to spirit, spirit to spirit, all are part of the whole. Heart to heart, spirit to spirit, walking in love with these we know. Do you feel that presence of love here? Because we allowed our heart to be open. And the heart does what the heart does. And the heart wants what the heart wants. And it wants to express. It doesn't need so much to be loved as much as it wants to extend the love it is into the world. All right? Bless you. Thank you.
Time to let your heart light shine. Time to let your heart